Jonathan here. How you doing? I'm out here this morning on the beautiful Sundial Bridge. You know, this thing actually tells time at a certain time of the year. It's accurate. Amazing. Anyway, I thought I would give a shout out to everyone who appreciates Memorial Day. We're going to have a great weekend. We've already started. Barbecued ribs, corn on the cob. Nobody fixes it like my wife. We are remembering those who fought in the military and died so that we can be free, keep our liberty, keep our country free. I remember how much it meant to me to sign those papers going into the military when I was a young man. And just that decision to, yes, I will give my life for my country if that's necessary. I will fight for what we have, fight to protect what we have. And so, happy Memorial Day weekend. I hope you're all safe and feeling good. I've got a good message for you this morning. A message on how we can be proactive in these times to invite God into our hardships, personal and otherwise. And I hope you'll join me. Hope you'll join me for church online this morning. So, what do you say, C4? Are you ready to go to church? Well, all right. Come on. Let's go. Good morning and welcome. Welcome to my home. Welcome to C4 Church Online. I'm speaking to you, Coffee Creek, Trinity Center, and all of our friends this morning, the only way I know how to. I want to talk to you today about invite God into your hardships. You know, most of the time we're praying, God, get me out of this challenge, get me out of this trouble, get me out of this financial setback, right? There's nothing wrong with that. But before you get out, you have to invite God in. Sometimes the miracle is not in getting out. It's in what God is going to do in that situation. Instead of praying, God, get me out, why don't you start praying, God, come into this hospital room while I'm taking the treatment. Come into this trouble at work where the people just aren't fair. Come into this anxiety that I'm dealing with. What's more powerful than God bringing you out is when God comes in and begins to change things. He comes in and gives you favor despite who's trying to push you down. He comes in and gives you strength that you can't even explain, and grace to outlast what should stop you. You know, if you're only focused on God bringing you out, then you're going to be disappointed because God doesn't do things according to our timetable. Sometimes it's taking longer than we thought. But when you ask God to come in, you can be at rest. God, I know you're right here with me. You are ordering my steps, and at the right time, you'll get me to where I'm supposed to be. You don't have to fight everything and live upset, can't sleep at night. That happens when you're only focused on getting out. God is waiting to come in. When you ask Him, you're saying, God, don't just change the circumstances, change me. Change me. Help me to not just go through this situation. Help me to grow through it. Help me to learn, increase my faith, let my character come up higher. If God delivered us out of everything instantly,
we'd never reach our full potential. God works in the trouble. He works in the uncomfortable situations. And sometimes God is not bringing you out yet because He wants the odds to be against you in a bigger way. So when He brings you out, it'll be a greater miracle. Now, voices will whisper, God doesn't even hear your prayers. That's why nothing's changing. The truth is, God is setting you up to show off big time in your life. When He brings you out, no one will be able to deny, yep, His favor is on you. Now God said in Isaiah 43:2, He said, when you go through the waters, I will be with you. When you go through the rivers, they will not overwhelm you. When you walk through the fire, you will not be burned. It's interesting that God didn't say, I'll keep you out of every fire. You won't have to face any floods. No, He said, the challenges will come. There will be adversities and things we don't understand. But the whole key to this verse is when He said, I will be with you in the fire, in the flood, in the famine, in the plague. Are you trying to get out of something that God is going to take you through? Are you fighting the process? Well, it's not fair, God. I can't take it anymore. Everything will change if you start inviting God into the fire. You know, He's already promised He'll be with you. Maybe He's just waiting for your invitation. The right attitude is, God, I know you're going to bring me out. But in the meantime, I'm asking you to come into this challenge in my health. Come into this loss that I'm going through. Come into this depression that's trying to stop me. When you invite God into your difficulty, you'll feel Him breathing in your direction, empowering you, enabling you, and favoring you. Is it a greater testimony that kept you out of the fire, or that He came in with you into the fire and brought you through it? David said in Psalm 23:4, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Why? Because you are with me. When you know God is with you, when you've invited Him to come into your situation, you'll have a smile in the middle of all that difficulty. You'll have a song of praise in prison, like Paul and Silas. You won't be complaining about the trouble. You won't be complaining about the trouble, worried about when it's going to work out. You'll be at peace in the middle of the storm. And the reason David didn't live afraid, even though he went through the valleys and all kinds of adversities, is that he understood this principle to invite God into the trouble. He wasn't just, waiting to get out. He knew that God was right there with him. So if you're only praying, God, get me out, you'll be discouraged until it changes. But Jonathan, I just can't enjoy my life. I have this child. They're off course. I'm dealing with an illness. My finances are low. When it turns around, then I'll have a good attitude. See, you're waiting for God to bring you out while God is waiting for you to invite Him in. You have to do like David. Father, thank you that you are with me right here in this valley, and I am not going to live afraid, worried. I may not see a way, but I know you have a way. Instead of just trying to get out of the valley, out of the trouble, out of the fire, if you'll just start saying, God, come in. Let me feel your presence in the fire. Show me your goodness in this trouble. Then you'll have a peace that passes understanding. A joy when you could be discouraged, and a hope when you should be distressed. You know, in the scripture, 3 Hebrew teenagers would not bow down to the king's golden idol. The king was so furious, he threatened to have them thrown into a fiery furnace. And the teenagers said, "King, we're not worried. We know our God will deliver us." This made the king even more angry. So he had the guards turn up the furnace 7 times hotter than normal. Why did God have the king make the fire even hotter? He wanted it to be a bigger miracle. He wanted the odds to be more against them. Yeah. The fact is, God could have kept them out of the fire. He's God. He parted the Red Seas. He opened blind eyes. It would have been no problem for God to change the king's mind or to help these teenagers escape. But God doesn't deliver us from every fire. Sometimes He'll take you through the fire. Well, the good news is God knows how to make you fireproof. People don't determine your destiny. Bad breaks cannot stop God's plan for your life. No. Sickness, addictions, unfair situations don't have the final say. Now, don't be discouraged because God didn't keep you out of the fire. God doesn't stop every negative situation. He uses adversities to move us into His purpose, to move us closer to Him. We would never know His power if we were never thrown in a fire, so to speak. You wouldn't know He was a healer if you'd never had an illness. We wouldn't know He could move mountains if we never faced big obstacles. Now quit complaining about what you're up against. You know, it's not a surprise to God. The enemy may have turned up the fire 7 times hotter than normal. They didn't do that without God's permission. God is in charge, not just of your life. He's in charge of your enemies. Instead of complaining about the fire, start inviting Him into the fire. When He's with you, you cannot be defeated. You and God are a majority. He's a supernatural God. He's not limited by the fire, not limited by the floods or by the famines. Instead of complaining about everything you don't like, if you'll recognize that God allowed the difficulty. Now, I'm not saying He sent it, but He allowed it because He had a purpose. And the purpose is not so you can live miserable and worried and afraid. His purpose is to show His glory through you. It's so other people can see His power and His favor on your life. See, without great tests, you won't have a great testimony. Without big battles, we won't see big victories. And these teenagers said, "We know our God will deliver us." They made this declaration of faith. And then they said something even more powerful. "But even if He doesn't, we're still not going to bow down." Oh, that's the kind of people that give the enemy a nervous breakdown. You know, when you can say, "God, this is what I'm believing for. This is what I'm hoping will happen. But God, even if it doesn't work out my way, well, I'm still going to praise You. I'm still going to be good to others. I'm still going to show up Sunday and I'm going to serve. I'm still going to pursue my dreams." And that attitude gets God's attention. You're saying, "God, not my will, but let Your will be done." So good. But too often we're putting conditions on God and conditions on our prayers. "God, you know, I'll be happy if my boss moves to the dark side of Mars." When you get him out of my life, then I'll have a good attitude. Have you ever thought God may be using that person to do a work in you, to grow you up, to develop your character, or to teach you to love those that are not very lovable? Instead of saying, God, get me out of this situation, I'm asking you to start praying, God, come into this situation. Help me to have a good attitude. Help me to do the right thing when the wrong thing is going on. It's very powerful when you can say, God, if my boss never moves, if he's here until I go to heaven, I know you have given me the strength to overcome. You have given me the power to be happy in the middle of this difficulty. And I'm not going to let this person, this sickness, this injustice steal my joy. Now, you'll grow it. Now you're coming up higher, because sometimes God is waiting for us to pass the test before he brings us out. So the king had the guards tie up the teenager's hands and feet with cords, and they threw them into the furnace. It was so hot that the guards were instantly killed. Well, it looked like this was going to be the end for the teenagers. But people don't have the final say. If it's not your time to go, you're not going to go. Nothing can snatch you out of God's hands. Nothing. In a little while, this king came to check on him. He looks through the furnace window, and he's puzzled. He said, and this is in Daniel 3:24 and 25, didn't we throw 3 men in bound? I see 4 men loosed, and one looks like the Son of God. God may not keep you out of every fire, but don't worry. He'll come into the fire with you. He'll help you overcome what looks impossible. That illness should be the end. The medical report said you were done. God came in the fire with you. And here you are still going strong. That loved one you lost, or that person that walked away, broke your heart, that should have soured your life. But look at you now. Still moving forward, doing great things, fulfilling your purpose. How could that be? God came into the fire with you. And the psalmist, in Psalm 46:1, he said, God is a very present help in times of trouble. We know that God is always with us. But when you're in real difficulties and you invite him in, oh, you're going to feel his presence in a greater way. You're going to be more aware that you're not alone. When you get thrown into the fire, so to speak, you won't be bitter. You'll stay in faith, knowing that the 4th man is right there with you. The God who controls the fire, the God who restores, who pays you back for the injustice, he's right there. He's watching over you, protecting you, ordering your steps. Moses went through a difficult situation. He didn't know how it was going to work out. I'm sure he was tempted to worry and think about how big his enemies were. But God said to him in Exodus 33:14, Moses, I will go with you. I will give you rest. Everything will be fine for you. Everything will be fine for you. Well, maybe you're facing some challenges. Life hasn't turned out the way you thought. You asked God to keep you out of the fire, but it didn't happen your way. And now you're wondering how you're going to beat the illness, or how your family's going to be restored. And God is saying to you what he said to Moses. I'm going with you. You're not in that fire by yourself. I have you in the palm of my hand, and I'm fighting your battles. So good. You know, that obstacle may be too much for you, but it's not too much for our God. Right now, he is pushing back forces of darkness. He's keeping the fire from burning you. Right now, he's not letting those waters drown you. He's your protector, your deliverer, your waymaker, your healer, your provider. You don't have to do this on your own. You don't have to figure everything out. You're not going to know all the details. You have to walk by faith and not by sight, knowing that he's right there with you, that he's promised everything is going to be all right for you. When that king had the teenagers' hands and feet bound up, well, they could have panicked and been stressed out. They understood this principle, that God doesn't keep us out of every fire, but he comes into the fire with us. So they didn't fall apart. They stayed in peace. But I can imagine how different this outcome could have been, if they would have complained or been bitter or discouraged. Maybe we wouldn't be here talking about them. Maybe the fourth man would never have shown up. How we approach our difficulties makes all the difference. Whether we're going to come through them and not burn without the smell of smoke like the teenagers, or whether we're going to get stuck in them and miss God's best. You may be in the fire now, but this is not the time to complain. It's not the time to just pray, God, get me out of here. Help. More than ever, you need to start saying, Father, thank you that you are in this fire with me. Thank you. Thank you that no weapon formed against me is going to prosper. God, I am not going to worry. I believe what you promised. I trust you that everything will be fine for me. And here's how amazing God is. The king said, didn't we throw 3 men in bound? I see 4 men loosed. When the teenagers came out, the only thing the fire had burned were the cords that were holding them back. Their hair was fine. The skin was fine. The clothes were fine. Just the cords. When you come out of that difficulty, the only things that are going to be gone are the limitations that are holding you back. The fire is going to burn off the fear. The fire is going to burn off the negative mindsets. Burn off relationships that were pulling you down. You're going to come out free and bold and confident, healthy, promoted, victorious, and ready to fulfill your destiny. Oh, God knows how to vindicate you. He knows how to bring you out of the difficulty. The question is, are you inviting him into the difficulty? When you're in the fire, you can complain, be discouraged. God, it's not fair. Well, try a different approach. God, come into this fire with me. God, help me to do the right thing. Change me where I need to change, and burn off the things that are holding me back. You have to shine where you are. Have a song of praise when you could be complaining. Keep a smile on your face when you should be discouraged. I know it's not easy, but keep reminding yourself. Reminding yourself. The Creator of the universe, the Most High God, is right there with you. He sees what you're up against. He knows what's not fair. The hurts, the disappointments, the lonely nights. when you dig your heels in and you do the right thing, you will feel a supernatural strength, a power to do what you could not do on your own. So many places in the Bible, we see those who had it unbelievably rough, different times in their life, and God brought them through to a higher place. Why are there so many examples? I believe God wants us to see this principle, that when you invite him into the fire, you're going to have favor that pushes you up when life is trying to push you down. You're going to have strength to excel when you could be slacking off. And you're going to have a power to overcome that which should stop you. You may be in a situation now that you don't think is ever going to change. But I'm telling you, what God started in your life, he's going to finish. Now, it may not happen on your timetable. But instead of just praying, God, get me out, and being frustrated because it's taking longer than you thought, really, why don't you start inviting God in? Father, thank you that you are with me in this battle with cancer. You are with me in this struggle with addiction. You are with me in this divorce, in this breakup. Oh, when you invite God in, you will feel his presence in a new way. All right, let's look at Mark. Mark chapter 4. Jesus said to the disciples, many of you know this story, "Let us cross to the other side of the lake." They all got in this boat, but as they were sailing, a huge storm arose. The waves were crashing over the boat. The wind's so strong, the disciples started to panic, thinking they were about to die. Jesus was asleep in the back of the boat. Well, they ran as fast as they could. "Jesus, wake up, wake up. Don't you care that we're about to die?" Jesus stood up, spoke to the storm. Suddenly, everything calmed down. These disciples had seen Jesus perform great miracles, heal the lepers, raise a little boy from the dead, all that. When Jesus said, "We're going to the other side," you'd think they'd be confident. "Hey, nothing for us to worry about. The Son of God is in our boat. He just said we're going to cross." But even though Jesus was with them, they still panicked. They didn't realize the winds and waves couldn't stop the God who created the winds and the waves. The creation couldn't stop the Creator. They had no reason to be afraid. The Son of God was in the storm with them. And I wonder if you're doing like them, worried about something even though God is on your boat. He's already promised you that he would restore health back into you. He's promised you. He's promised that you would lend and not borrow. That as for you and your house, you will serve the Lord. Now, the circumstances may look the opposite. The medical reports, not good. Your loved ones, off course. And it's easy, so easy to live worried, upset. But can I encourage you? The Most High God is on your boat. Those winds cannot stop you. The sickness, the injustice, the people, they cannot keep you from your destiny. You might as well relax. Everything is going to be fine for you. Sure, I know, the waves may be real big, but you have an advantage. The God who rules the universe is right there with you, right now. Now do your part. Start thanking him that he's fighting your battles. Start shining where you are, being your best in spite of those difficulties. Don't wait until it changes. You have to invite him in before he brings you out. If you'll do this, I believe and declare this morning, just like those teenagers, that fire is not going to burn you. You're about to see the fourth man show up. Unusual things are about to happen. Unusual favor, unusual healings, unusual breakthroughs, unusual promotion, the fullness of your destiny. And I declare that this morning for you in Jesus' name. In Jesus' mighty name. God bless you. God bless you.
Jesus! Forward! Aye!